All right, first test. These are not nice and tight. For our first real bales that came out of this thing, we're gonna have to set the length to maybe be a little longer. And they're kind of doing this banana curl thing. So I think what I need to do is replace, there's these wedges on the inside of this chamber here. And this one is almost completely gone on this side. And I think it's not doing enough to keep the bale pressure on that side. Plus it also might have to do with how we fed this thing, but it works. It's tied, and these are really solid bales here, so
yeah, good. Yeah,
pretty impressive. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to replace I'm going to take this off and sharpen this knife, because when I was looking at the video I noticed it's not really doing a very good job of cutting. So I think it needs to be sharpened, but also I need to adjust the tolerance to move the blade this way, so that there's less of a gap between the fixed blade over there and the plunger blade. I think if I get that, it will cut the hay better, and it will stop pulling it through and stuffing up one side more than the other. The other thing here, okay, so the other problem I have is in my bale chamber. These wedges right here are completely gone. You can see they're broken on both sides. Right here, this one's broke. That one over there is not even there, and I think that's why I was getting a lot more packing on one side than the other. And then there's supposed to be another set a little further down the chamber here, and they're both broken. So I need 4 wedges, which I have coming in the mail, and I should be good to go. Once I get this thing sharpened, I'm going to shim the plunger over a little bit, and that should take care of my cutting issue. And then I'm going to make an outfeed table, because I took this kicker off of it because I didn't need the kicker, but I do need a little table so the bale can push all the way out of the compression chamber here and rest on a table before it falls onto the ground. So the things I have to do to move the plunger over, there's all these bolts here that adjust the angle iron. So here, all shim the angle iron that's down here. You can kind of see it there with the plunger. It'll push that over so the plunger will get a little closer to that fixed blade on that side over there, and I'm hoping that will do the trick. Otherwise, I think this thing's ready to go for baling. We got some decent bales out of it. they're tight. They were nice and tight, so kind of see how tight they are by how tight this rope is. But the bigger problems with it were that it wasn't cutting real well. So this is a side that was cutting. You can see it's a little frayed and stuff. It's not nice and straight and stuff. And this side of the bale was getting much more than this side of the bale. Again, that could be how I'm feeding it. And one other adjustment that you can make on these balers are the big teeth that push the hay over into the bale chamber. You can adjust how far these things are over to the right, and the farther over you push them to the right, the more hay they grab and push to the far side of the chamber. So I might adjust those slightly, just depending upon how this works, but I really want to get it on a full windrow and test it moving forward before I make too many adjustments to those. So yeah, so I think overall this thing's been pretty good for a Craigslist purchase sight unseen. To get this knife off, there's 3 Allen wrench bolts here, Allen head bolts, and they're 5/16, and they're really hard to turn. So I had to get some of these impact ready Allen wrench or hex heads, whatever you want to call them, for my impact driver. And this thing's pretty beefy, so I'm hoping this is going to work, and I hope it doesn't break the bolts in there. But I haven't been able to get it off using my normal Allen wrenches like this, because it's just a little too hard, a little too awkward. So I'm trying to get this done without having to pull the plunger all the way out of the baler. So let's see how this goes. And of course, not wanting to come out. They are not coming out. These things are in there good, and it's like I've stripped them a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna have to figure, I might have to pull the whole plunger out of here. A couple other things I had to replace on this. They're the springs, those red springs down here for they're called bale dogs. They keep the bale from sliding backwards as the plunger sucks back. And yeah, I had to replace those because those springs are completely broken. I changed the oil in the different gearboxes. So there's one here, and they take like 90 weight oil. I put in 90 oil in them, and the oil that came out of this is just, I mean, it's almost a solid. You can kind of see that. It's just almost like a grease. I don't think it's ever been changed. So that helped make it turn a lot easier. There's another gearbox here that requires the same oil, and it looked the exact same too, and it was almost, this one was almost empty. So getting all the new oil in there helped. I put, the tire was missing on this thing, and I just got a little hand truck tire off of Amazon. It was like less than 20 bucks. So I'm hoping that's going to work, because it was hard to find a replacement part for that. So this has a 3/4 inch axle, and it's a 10-inch tire. So I had a bigger tire, this one here, and it doesn't work. So these are just like wheelbarrow tires, and I believe this one's like 14 inches, and this one is 10. And this actually, for the middle setting here on the height, this works the best, because this is now resting on the ground here. I got it, the height setting in here to the lowest it'll go, and that puts the tines within a 1/2 inch of the ground. So I think that's pretty ideal. So if you're looking for a replacement tire, 10-inch one is probably the way to go. Okay, back to this guy. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do now because these are stripped, and I'm probably going to have to pull the plunger out to get this thing off so I can sharpen it. Otherwise, I may just try to lean in there with an angle iron and just try to sharpen it. Doesn't need to be perfect, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little nervous about pulling this plunger out because there's all these other bolts that I have to do to pull it out here. So turn this thing up here, and like right here, I'm gonna have to get these guys out of here, and then I can slide the whole plunger out the back. So that plunger came out a lot easier than I was thinking it was gonna go. So these bolts came out nicely. I use these wrenches. They have like a ratchet on the end, made by this company here. These are not sponsored, but I love these things. These are like the best wrenches I have, and I want to get more. I only have 4 of them. They're pretty expensive, but they work wonders with this little ratchet thing. You can get into a tight bolt and just like you know, get things out, and they work. Have a lot of grip. So now I'm going to try to get this plunger out of here. We'll see how this goes. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to cut my twine there, and then I think I just need to slide everything out. Hopefully it just goes out. So this plunger has been giving me a lot of trouble. So what I've done here is, there we go. What I've done here is hook a ratchet strap up around the middle, and then I'm just kind of ratcheting it out and using a crowbar to kind of wiggle it around. This is a square baler that has the wooden slides, so there are no bearings, so it's pretty hard to pull out. And I tried to loosen the slides up. The bolts are sold. They just broke off here, and you can see another one broke up there. So I'm gonna have to get this thing out of here, and then I can come in here and replace these slides on the inside here, or just double check them and then put all new bolts in. So yeah, it's coming out slowly but surely here. Have a little help. So yeah, I'll keep banging on this, and it's working all right so far. I'm actually making progress. It's about a ½ inch at a time. So alright, the last bit. Whoa, okay. She's out. So here's what the inside looks like. I'm going to have to adjust those slides on the left-hand side over here on this side, so that the cutter cuts closer to that fixed blade over there. But yeah, it looks like it's in pretty decent shape. So I'm going to take some rust primer, Rust-Oleum rusty metal primer, and just spray it all on the inside of here. And that way it actually works with some of this rust that's in here, and it'll create a smoother surface so the bales will slide a little bit easier. And I'll get my wedges in. I was able to get all those old wedges out. Those things are all in here. You can see they were all mangled, but these bolts wouldn't give up, so I had to cut everything out. So the chickens right now are helping me out because we're getting a late March snow here. or mid-March snow, I should say. Hopefully this is the last one of the year, but you never know. So they're all hiding out under here, trying to stay dry. I have the plunger off, and in the workshop here, get some light on it. And I'm noticing a couple things that I'm glad I pulled this out of here. So first one is these are metal washers here. And you can see the wood is worn down so much that the metal washer's sticking up. And there's another one over here that those are supposed to be inside the wood, not exposed, because that will create a metal on metal friction there, and that will wear away the wall. So over on this side you can kind of see the washer's more inset down in there, and these are pretty beat up. So there's more. If we flip this thing, the one over here by the blade is in the worst shape, so it's clearly broken here. And I'm going to try to get all these off now, and I want to see if I can try to take this blade off now that I have a better angle at it, to get it sharpened. It's pretty good, but there's some dings and chips in it, and I think I can get it nice and sharp. I've got some hard maple blanks that I ordered. They're about $9 a piece, that I'm going to cut and try to match into these, because these things run anywhere from like $140 a slide to like $600 a set. So yeah, they're not cheap. So I was going to just try to do it on my own with some hard maple. I was also reading last night that I might have made my life easier by taking out a wedge on the chamber and the baler that allows this to slide out much easier. I think I pulled it up and over it, and that's why I needed that ratchet strap, and it was much more difficult than it should have been. So let's get to work here. Got lucky with the first one, I think. This one's gonna spin too. Yeah, so these bolts are really just these like panhead bolts that just have like a square part underneath, and they just slot into the wood, and the wood is the only thing that keeps them from spinning. So being this old and the bolts being rusted, they all just spin out inside the wood, so I'll just have to figure out how to get these things out. I'll probably just have to cut these bolts off and just knock them out with the punch here. Let's see if the other side here. Every bolt I don't have to cut is a win. Well, we got one off without too much trouble. So I'm gonna try this again. See if I can get this off of here. I got a better angle. So the battery one isn't enough to turn these, so let's try the heavy duty one here. No, none of these work. didn't work either. Looks like I'm gonna just sharpen this thing in place. These bolts are not moving. And I think there's enough blade here to still be functional. And I guess I'll just worry about these bolts next time I need to sharpen the blade and change it. So I got some of this penetrating lubricant. I'm gonna try to put it on all these bolts here and do the same on this plunger here so I can see how many I can salvage off that guy. So I'm cutting these slides here, and I found that the angle is a 45 degree this way, and then the blade is going to be tilted about 33 degrees. So I just figured that out by lining the saw blade up with the angle of this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut the corner here, and then we'll cut them down to about 21.5 inches. So to get this angle right, after you do your first cut, you have to flip it over this way and then tip one back. Before I tip it back, I'm going to mark. It's about 21 3/4, or you could go to 22. It's not really, this length is not important. What's going to be important is getting the holes lined up. So I'm going to go about close to 22 inches on this long back corner. And so just line this up back here. It's not real precision, so it's not super important. See, it looks just like the other slides. So yeah, once you put them on top of each other, my angle is probably a little different, but again, this angle isn't super important. It's just really so that these slides can ride along the edge of that angle iron, and that corner point gets in there and it keeps junk from clogging up. So having this angle at a 45 is the most important thing, so that it scoops out everything as it moves along the slide. 4 slides here. Go on each corner of the plunger. So all right, now it's going to be all about getting the holes lined up so that these all go in the right part of the angle. Okay, so I got them all finished here, and the bolts all fit through just fine, and they seem to be working. So before I put the slides back on, I'm going to use a wire brush here and some of this rusty metal primer to just clean up the plunger here, and especially get inside these angle irons where the wood meets. Okay, so I'm getting ready to put the plunger back in, and I can't say this is the first time I'm trying it. I've actually spent about a day on this thing, so it has been a nightmare to get this thing in here. And the main reason it's a nightmare is the way the angle irons in there that the plunger rides on, they're kind of worn differently over the years, and it's tighter here at the end where you put the plunger in, and it gets looser in there. So I'm trying not to make the plunger too small, because there'll be a lot of slop in it once I get in there. The other thing that's happening is all these bolts that adjust the angle irons that the plunger rides on are breaking, and they're rusted shut. In fact, I think those the angle irons that the plunger rides on are rusted in place. So they've lost their adjustment. So yeah, this has been pretty much a nightmare. But we're gonna get it here soon. I've had to take this thing in and out and use my little planer here to plane down each side of the runners to try to get the tightest fit I can. And so I just pulled this thing out again. I've been bashing it in with these logs here. So hopefully this time it slides in nice and easy. So I'll just set the camera up here, and it's raining pretty hard, but that's okay. We'll still get this done. Almost forgot one thing. So I'm using this big channel, or this big angle iron for of aluminum to help guide this thing in so it gets onto the tracks all right. So I'm trying to do this. In there. Get my strap out of the way. Let's hope this goes in all right. So what I have going on here is I have a ratchet strap hooked onto the end of the plunger and hooked to the tractor over here. So I just sit on and crank on this ratchet strap and pull the plunger through. It looks like I'm gonna have to shave it down again. It's not going in very easy, and if you pull it in too far, as I've learned, and you hammer it in, it's really hard to get out. So it's like I gotta do it again. So it's again not going. I'm gonna try again. Okay, so I've got the plunger all back in, and it turns pretty well by hand until it gets to about the knife, and then there's a little bit of scissor action going on the knife. There's a little rub at the bottom. The main reason you can kind of see like how worn these tracks get over 60 years. So what I've had to do is on that on the left side of the chamber there's the static knife. I've had to just kind of grind down the bottom a little bit to taper it, and on the moving knife I also ground the bottom corner so they kind of angle away from each other. That way they don't clank into each other, so they'll kind of scissor past. I don't really have a lot of other options right now because the adjustments in this thing are kind of all rusted shut and everything's a little worn. It's not straight anymore, so I kind of got to work with a grinder and do things that way. But I can report that this thing does turn through by hand. It gets pretty hard by the knife. So I think with some wear, running this thing for a while and getting the wood broke in and stuff like that, I think it's going to be perfect. So I'm going to hook the camera up right here to kind of show you what this looks like when it passes by the knife. Okay, I got some hay with me. I'm gonna go put this windrow out. And the skies are a little gray today, so I'll be racing the clock here. Try to run this test. Help if I put this thing in gear. Oh geez, and I lost the bale. Okay, so I'm a little nervous. It's my first test here. I just made sure the knotters worked. So they're all ready to go. So I'm gonna drive over to the windrow and see how this goes. Okay, here goes nothing. I'm a little nervous about this. I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't have it in the actual baling position. It's in transport position right now, but that's okay. I'm just doing a test. I'm going through some narrow stuff here, so I'm just gonna do it like this. I know I'm gonna run over the windrow, but let's see how this works. That looks better, I think. So I'm gonna go tear out this bad bale and start another windrow here. Okay, here's the first real bale. So one thing I did, I made them a little longer because we wanted a little bit longer bales. And I can report that the curl in them is almost not there. And it's not the best windrow either because I just kind of threw out some bales here. But wow, looking pretty good. And go up here and just double check. I mean, it seems to... See, the knife is really cutting well now, so that's sharpened. So I'm getting a nice clean end of the bale. So here's a quick look at the knife. So it's not perfect, but that's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good for hay that's been through a baler about 3 or 4 times. So I think with a little bit longer grass, it might work a little better. So to recap, kind of what I did, I just painted a lot of this with the Rust-Oleum primer on the inside. I put in new wedges in the bale chamber, so they're on the inside on both sides. And I sharpened the blade, put in new slides. Yeah, and it appears to work pretty well. So I'm just gonna climb around here and double check that nothing's crazy. Still have my wood slide there. It's not on fire, which is good. There was some friction there earlier, so I was a little worried about having a fire start with my bales. But I think this is pretty well ready. So I also have this little tire on here, which seems to do just a perfect job. And this is only like 20 bucks, so we'll see how long this thing lasts. But there's not a lot of weight on this pickup, because on the other side over here, there is this spring, and you can adjust how much tension you want on that pickup so it floats over the ground. And with that little tire, the teeth are just about perfect in the grass. They're not digging into the dirt, but they're getting into the grass. And I replaced this spring because I had an extra one that was included with this. And yeah, so far, I'd say it works pretty well. It's not like perfect, but not bad for $1,000, and I guess it's a couple days of work. So it was a lot of work, but it's working. So, and I think I've got the bale tension set just right. Okay, so I'm gonna end this episode here and call this a win so far. Let's see how this performs during hay season. Thanks for watching. Next episode, I'm gonna make a little extender for this the bale chamber here, so the bales hold together a little bit longer, and then they drop off after they're through the tension area. So I think that'll also help my bale quality. So yeah, this has been fun. Don't be afraid of an old square baler. It can be a lot of work, but you know, with the grinder and some hammers and stuff, you can get it working again. They're not very complicated. So all right, thanks for watching.